Practice? We're talking about practice?
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'm Jaron, that's Landon. Follow us on social media. Our ads are right there below. But Landon, we had our first spring scrimmage. What were some of your takeaways from some of the things that you've read? And we're underway.
Yeah, and that's exciting. I mean, they're playing against themselves, but at least, the pads are on and we're hitting people. Biggest thing that I took away from was Jeff Lebby's comment about how they hit about 160 snaps, and last year they weren't able to do more than about 120 because of depth.
Yeah,
and that's huge. I mean, it might not seem, that's the boring answer now. No one appreciates depth until you need it, but it's good that it's there. Then that they're able to have these longer scrimmages, get more people experience in game type situations, and just get more people on the field.
Yeah, I was reading kind of a Q&A from him about the first scrimmage. And one thing that I thought was interesting is he talked about the defense really started the scrimmage really well and had some great moments situationally that he thought was really good for them to be able to build on. He said they were able to roll in like multiple guys on the defensive line who got a bunch of reps. And he said inside linebacker has been really good for them. So those are some good things you want to hear. And then offensively, he said they had some explosive plays, but they have to be better on 1st and 10. And that will be the big stress moving forward. And if you looked at his career at Oklahoma, his first year, they had the big explosive plays, but they did struggle on 1st and 10, which made third downs more difficult, which they struggled on third downs. His last year at Oklahoma, that was corrected and fixed. And so he might be entering that first year at Oklahoma type season this year where you have a pretty good offense, but you're still struggling on some of those downs. And then next year's the year to take off, which is what we've talked about has to happen.
That's right. And you mentioned the explosive play. And, I'm sure a lot of people, we all saw the video on Twitter of Shapen throwing the ball to Anthony Evans. Yeah. I want to say Anthony Edwards. I knew that wasn't right.
He had a big game the other night, so
that's probably why I'm thinking about it. But no, Anthony Evans, and great throw. I mean, obviously, there's no pressure really in the quarterback space in these packs, but he made the right throw, and Evans shrugged off a tackle and then took it to the house. So that was a huge play, and that showed the speed that we've been talking about that they have at this at the wide receiver position, and. Beyond that, just the bodies they have on that defensive line that he mentioned, just the constant rotation. And you've seen that more and more in the NFL and in college over the last about 10 years. It's not about just having those 4 guys or 5 guys. It's about having 8 or 9 guys that you can just constantly move in and keep bodies fresh along the line. And it seems like they're getting there with that type of rotation.
Right. And obviously you want to have stars all over the defensive line. But if you don't, you need a lot of guys that are about the same level of talent so you can just keep rotating them, keep them fresh. This guy's having a great game. This guy's not. So we swap them and they can go and play. And it seems like that's kind of what they're going to try to go with this year is that big rotation, a lot of depth. A lot of players are about the same in terms of skill. So there's not a big drop off when someone comes in, and you can win a lot of football games that way.
You really can, especially with that, and then they have more size on the defensive end, which Levy has mentioned earlier in the offseason, that they just have those guys that are around or over 300 pounds, and you have to have that or you're going to get pushed around on the defensive line no matter how many bodies you keep in there. And he mentioned the linebackers. We haven't talked about them much. He didn't talk about them much outside of saying one sentence about inside linebackers, but I mean, it's good. They're doing enough to, get a mention like that, especially when you've heard nothing about that position all offseason. I mean, you've heard something about every position except for linebacker, really.
Yeah, and you wonder how much, because if you look at his answers on all these scrimmage questions, it was about the defense. And you wonder if that's him being just so picky about the offense that he doesn't want to give them any credit. But one thing I did think that was interesting, he was asked about going full contact finally. He said, since we've been able to put on the pads, there's been a bunch of back and forth. He said, this is the big part, I think. Defensively, we've shown signs of real physicality and then being able to situationally play better all the way around, which was good to see. We talked about this maybe in yesterday's podcast or the one before that, how this team needs to be more physical, especially defensively. And it sounds like they're doing that. And in the SEC, you need that, and you need to be a physical defense.
You do, and it seems like they're also getting that way in this. I don't want to get too much into it because it's a segment later, but in the secondary, especially at the safety position, the being more physical is a big topic that he mentioned multiple times. But outside of that, looks like we got the punters giving up baseball, so he's playing.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's what we should have led with, but no, it does seem like they're really getting a lot more physical on the defensive side. And it's always interesting when an offensive coach or like one offensive coach talks about defense a lot or a defensive coach talks about offense.
Right.
Is it because they really showed up? Is it because maybe that's just the direction the questions took them? Or is it because they're being more nitpicky or whatever you want to call it on their side of the ball? So, maybe there's some reading in between the lines that other people doing with this about, and then it could be, did the offense look bad? And that's why.
Well, that's kind of my worry, because usually in the first scrimmage, it's the offense that wins that. Because the offense, obviously the defense knows what plays are coming, but the offense is it's just easier to play offense, and it's usually scrimmages are usually more tailored to offenses. So I feel like most of the time you hear the offenses win the first scrimmage, and then when you start really getting into the weeds of plays and stuff, that's when the defense can kind of take advantage and stuff. So I thought it was interesting. It sounds like going off his comments, he didn't say which one, but it sounds like going off his comments, the defense kind of won the day, which if you're a Mississippi State fan, you love to hear. On one hand, obviously, that's the one thing about these inter squad scrimmages is you love the good news about the defense playing well, but you hate the news about the offense possibly struggling.
Yeah, you do. And it's why I'm always a big fan of like the offense dominated, but the defense made plays. That's the version I enjoy the most because, that's kind of what you expect when the offensive play caller knows that defense, knows everything about it. They should win more often. So in some ways, it's very encouraging that he spent this much time talking about the defense, but I have more questions about the offense. It's great they had explosive plays, but is that all they had? Did they struggle at everything outside of these game-breaking plays that they hit? That's where my head goes with all of this.
Yeah, and the explosive plays obviously are great. You want those, but if you're not an offense that can execute on first downs, third and shorts, and in the crucial moments, you're not going to be a great offense.
No.
Your numbers at the end of the year might be great because you pop off a 50-yard play every now and then. It kind of reminded me now, Saquon was obviously incredible this past year, but if you look at his year at Penn State, it was like he would go for, let's say, 100 yards a game. 80 of that would be on one run, and then his other 18 carries would be, for 20 yards or whatever. And so his numbers at the end of the day look great, but he really didn't have that great of a game. And so that's what you kind of worry about with the offense is, they might put up big numbers, yards, and all that because they have these explosive plays, but at the end of the day, they might not be a great offense yet. Which, again, that's okay. Be a top 50 unit. That's not – top 50 isn't necessarily great, but that's a big improvement.
If this defense was a top 50 unit, I think I'd be ready to call it great.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome. Which, hey, maybe that's what we got. Maybe they hit every one out of the transfer portal, and that's what's happening. Trying to get back on the positive note after yesterday, where we were.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're going to get into some more positives. This whole episode is pretty much a positive one. Positive. So we got to talk about the wide receivers next. There was a lot of shakeup with the wide receiver room. I knew there was, but then when you actually look into it, you don't realize how much there was. And there was a ton. Levy also talked about the wide receivers, so we're going to talk about that. That's coming up next. All right, well, daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. With longer days, I love getting outside for a hike or a run. Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick boost. And whether you're at a game or traveling, 5-Hour Energy is also easy to grab and keeps me feeling refreshed. I just came back from a work trip. It was super easy. Long drive, needed the 5-Hour Energy. And like I said, it was quick, and you can get it just about anywhere. Well, head to 5hourenergy.com to find out over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They are everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right, so we got to get into the wide receiver room. That was something Jeff Lebby was asked about. He was kind of asked about his thoughts on the room so far. I'll just kind of read you what he said. He said, I'm proud of that group right now. It's a group that is incredibly unselfish. They're all about the unit, and that has been really good for us to see. Of course, great familiarity with Brennan Thompson, who was a player at Oklahoma for Lebby. Being able to have him before, and he's really year 3 instead of year 1, so that's been awesome for everybody in the room. He's got such great knowledge of the offense and so many answers to the test. He said Anthony Evans has had a real good last 4 days of practice. Jordan Mosley has continued to get better, and we have to get him healthy and rolling. Ricky Johnson has done a great job, and we're looking for huge things out of him as he continues to make his strides. Aiden Williams has done well. He's then said we've got a real strong group there, but I think we're going to be able to roll guys and play with some depth. So he talked about a lot about the different wide receivers. What was your thoughts on what he said?
Just how many guys they're trying to get the ball to. I mean, it's great when you have them and how different. I mean, obviously we have the speed guys with Evans and Brennan Thompson are both, similar type receivers, but there are different types of guys. I mean, with Aiden Williams, he's bigger. Brennan Thompson, the familiarity, knowing the offense a little bit better than everyone else, even though some of these guys were here last year, but he's essentially, like you said, in year 3, he understands what his job is. And I think that's going to make him a go-to early on in this, in the offense early in the season.
Yeah, I got a dog barking over my head, but no, you're right. I mean, Brennan Thompson went obviously as a speed receiver who can go nuts for you. Anthony Evans is very similar in that aspect. So you got to replace, obviously, your leading receiver, Kevin Coleman Jr. last year. And so that's big. That was a big loss for him to transfer to Missouri. And I was looking at their top 6 that are listed on the depth chart. 5 of them are new.
Yeah. Yeah, they're new. And that's going to be – it'll be interesting early in the season to kind of – and throughout the spring, just kind of seeing where they all fall in that pecking order. Who ends up outside, who's inside, who – are they all deep threats? Who starts to work more underneath? Who does Lebby trust to move to different spots in the offense? Because it's all a work in progress. And even the guys who were here, or in this case of the top 6, the guy who was here last year doesn't have a ton of familiarity with Shapen. It's a lot of figuring out who can connect with the quarterback and just getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah, I'm looking at the depth chart right now. Now, this is by our lads, and so this isn't like official or anything, but Brennan Thompson, Aiden Williams, Marcus Allen are listed as the starters, all new. Anthony Evans, Jaron Glover, both of them are new. Jordan Mosley was here last year, and he's a redshirt senior, and he had 405 yards on 23 catches, 3 touchdowns. He was second on the team in receiving last year, but he's listed as a backup. And then Cam Thompson is on the third line as also a transfer and new to the team. So if you look at their full roster, of their top 9, 7 of them are new. So it's a new group. And like I said, Kevin Coleman's a big loss because if you look at the receiving last year, Kevin Coleman, 74 catches, 932 yards, 6 touchdowns. The next highest is 23 catches, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns by Mosley that we talked about. That's a big drop-off.
It is a big drop-off, but one of the best things about this transfer portal is you can overhaul a unit very quickly.
Right.
And Lebby's brought in guys to do that. I mean, it's an exciting group with the speed that they have out there. I mean, we mentioned the explosive plays in the first segment that they were hitting at that scrimmage. I mean, they're built to do that. And, Brennan Thompson, he gave a little bit of an interview too, and he talked about how, the energy's been amazing. Guys have been flying around, and that he has been working outside a lot right now, but he believes that once it gets moving, you'll see him move around the formation some. But I mean, he's mostly outside. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out, but it's an exciting group that is they're gonna do things fast.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, and we've talked about it many times on the podcast. You can overhaul a unit in the transfer portal, and that was something like you look at that discrepancy, the 932, then your next highest is 400. You didn't have a lot of depth in the wide receiver room last year. Now you've added a lot of pieces. Now they have to get familiarity with the quarterback, and that's up to them to go do some extra work, throw a lot, all that together, so they can get that continuity. But this is exciting, at least, to see all these new faces and maybe not having that big of a drop off. So I don't think you're going to have anyone as good as Coleman that goes for 930 yards, but you might have 4 or 5 guys get 500 or more. Yeah. And I think overall that would be a better unit than what you had last year, obviously, because if you had 4 guys over 500, they'd be your second leading receiver last year. So I think overall this is going to be a deeper unit. And you've got, I love the different body types, the different ability. You got some that are super fast. You got some bigger ones. Like, that's what you want in a wide receiver room.
Yeah, a lot of people use this when talking about the NFL draft, but you want a basketball team out there. You want your power forwards. You want your point guards. You want the guys who go up and get it, the guys who are going to run past people, and the guys who are going to make people miss. Right. And they have a little bit of all of that. And I would also expect to see all of these wide receivers have very high like yards per catch, especially with this style of offense and the amount of speed they have. I would not expect to have too many people with under 10 yards a catch. I feel there are going to be a lot of explosive plays. Hopefully they all get on the same page with Shapen, moving quickly and learn this offense. That's the other part about this is a whole new scheme for the majority of them outside of Thompson and then Mosley, really.
Right. And looking at it, Marcus Allen is listed at 6'2". Jaden Williams is listed at 6'3". Brennan Thompson's 5'9". Anthony Evans is 5'10". Jaron Glover's 6'1", and then Mosley is 6 foot. So you got some size, you got some small ones, and Evans and Thompson are absolute burners. And so, and that's just another added ability. And you got your 2 bigger outside guys, Brennan Thompson and Anthony Evans will probably work in the slot, but then you can bounce them out and just send them on a go route. So there's a lot of exciting things you can do with this wide receiver room that you just didn't have last year.
Right. And with 2 guys with that kind of speed, something I like to see defense, you send one deep to make everyone go back, and the other one runs the little drag underneath to where everyone's got to respect the speed. The other one takes advantage of their underneath. And with both of them are a little shifty in the open field too. And they can run away from people. And we're talking a lot about how fast 2 guys are, but speed can change. That's the one thing you can't teach.
No, absolutely. And you get him burned on a couple of deep passes. Well, now he acts like he's going to go on to go, and he does a deep curl, and you hit him on that for a big game. There's just so much you can do with it. But all right, well, coming up next, we got to talk about improvements in the secondary. Jeff Levy has a lot to say about this. He also talked about Snonka Burnside, who we mentioned earlier this week in the podcast. We'll get you all those details. That's coming up next.
The NCAA tournament is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Now, picking my favorites, I got my eye on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. Staying in the action with tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. Easy and fast. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jaron, that's Landon. Follow us on our social media. Follow Locked On Mississippi State on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Like, share, comment. Tell us some things that you want us to talk about, and we'll get into those details. But the last thing, Jeff Lebby talked about the safety room, and he actually went kind of in detail, first about Stonka and then just about the room as a whole. First, what he said about Stonka, he said he's done a really good job. What I love is he's having fun doing it. That's the exciting part to me because his ceiling, he doesn't have one. For him to be able to be both feet in and excited as he can be to play safety and play defense, he's ate up with it. Every rep he gets a little better, and he'll need to continue to operate that way. Then as far as the actual safety room, he said being able to move Stonka over has been really good. Brylan Lanier being back there instead of a corner has been really good. Obviously, with Hunter Washington back, it's been great. We've seen some real good growth from young guys, which we're excited about. We need great depth in that room, and something last year we did not have. We got to be able to play more than two guys, and we're building that as we speak right now. That's why getting all these practice reps is so meaningful for us. So, yes, like you talked about, depth was a major issue last year. That's one reason why Stonka moves over. They also talked about Lanier, moving him from corner back to safety. So now you have some depth in the safety room.
Yeah, and that's huge. And especially if Stonka is making those strides forward to where he's going to be a guy you can count on in the secondary. Because when you have a guy, first-year guy at any, essentially it's his first year in college. When you're putting him out the first time, you have questions. When you move a guy to the other side of the ball, you're going to have questions. But if he's making these kind of strides quickly, and I agree with Lebby, most importantly, he's having fun out there. And when a guy is having fun on the football field, that's when things for the other team can get a little scary sometimes because he's just reading, reacting, and not thinking about it too much. So,
well, that's massive.
Yeah, hopefully he's doing that. And if he does, it really elevates just not his. He said he has no ceiling. Well, if Stonka is playing like that, it elevates the ceiling of that entire secondary.
No, it's massive for your secondary and for your team as a whole, especially because he talked about how excited he is to play back there. And just that's big when you're making that positional switch. You have to be bought in and you have to be all in, which it sounded like he was when we talked about it earlier this week. You don't really make that move after your freshman season unless you are pretty much bought in. And so it's good to see that he is excited. He is flying around. We talked about it the other day. If you're going to make mistakes, make them fast. And so it sounds like that's what he's going to do. And it's a learning curve. And I'm not saying I wouldn't put any expectations on him in terms of what you expect to see from him this year. It is hard to make a positional move. Usually you don't see players later in their career make these moves because it takes a year usually to develop. So I would expect more of a redshirt year from him. But if something were to happen, an injury or something, then you would obviously see him. But yeah, you're looking at a secondary now that is looking pretty good. You obviously has Isaac Smith. He's kind of your nickel back position. And then, we talked about Lanier. We also talked about, obviously Stonka, but then they bring in transfers like Manning and Tony Mitchell brings in at a safety. And so that it's just a different room and one that you should be excited about.
Yeah, and with Stonka, if he does play a lot, I kind of would expect like the very high highs and some very low lows. Like he'll get burned on some double moves. It happens to veterans out there. It'll definitely happen to some guy who's playing his first snaps really on defense in a college game. But with all these new bodies and the excitement that there seems to be in the secondary room, with that and just the physicality they're playing with, I expect to, even if it's not as big of a jump in terms of the quality of play that we all are hoping for,
right?
It's going to be better, and the effort is going to be there. It's not going to be because they're not out there giving it everything they have. And it's just going to be because they have a long way to go to be a very good defense from where they came from.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And so I don't want we're spreading a lot of hopium today with a lot of our talk. So I don't, people coming away, if they didn't know anything about Mississippi State after listening to this podcast, they might think they're going to be 10-2 or 11-1.
10-2, 8 All-Americans on the
Yeah, they're stacked on defense. Like, think of the 21 Georgia team. Now, we just think they're going to be improved, and you can make the argument they can't get worse than what they were.
So
which
we're
is
right. They're
which
gonna
is
improve.
yeah, that's fair. But no, they just have attacked the right areas, and you hope they evaluated well. That's what it's going to come down to. These guys look like they're going to be impactful. You just have to now see if they evaluated well.
Yeah. All the coaches are saying the right things. The players are saying the right things. There seems to be like kind of a rejuvenation on the defensive side, just from like an energy and like maybe don't know if it's a philosophy shift, but at least kind of how it's translating to the field, and they're able to get more reps with this depth. I mean, it's just exciting. I think it's part of the good part about the unknown.
Right.
There's so many new pieces. It's like, this could be very good.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think it's going to be, you'll see a steady improvement this year. And then by the third year, that's when you got to start showing the bigger results. And if you're not showing it by the third year, you might be out of a job. So we'll see what ends up happening. But a lot of things to like, especially after the spring scrimmage. Right. But a lot of times in the spring, that's all you hear is the good news. You don't hear the negative. So, yeah, so we'll have to wait and see what all happens. But, all right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. April is here, so be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. That's Landon. There's our social media ads. Give us a follow. Also, follow Locked On Mississippi State on X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends about us. We want to hear your thoughts on different things we've talked about. If there's something you want us to talk about, mention in there. We have someone that really wants us to go hard on baseball.
We will.
You're in luck. We're going to be talking about baseball tomorrow a lot. So check out tomorrow's episode if that's you. So there's not a lot of exciting things going on with that one. But we thought we had to have another positive episode. Yeah. We hadn't had one since Monday. So we had to pull that one out. But until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.